I could totally start, but I know Chris wanted to say something first. DC or Marvel? I mean, I don't feel that strongly either way. I think the movies have been better for Marvel, but I mean, like, Batman's cooler than Iron Man, so it's like, no. That's okay. It's okay.
Are we ready to start? Yeah. Is this me? This is me. So, hello everyone. My name is Chris. I've met a lot of you. This is the 4th year that we have done GDEX, and every year it gets bigger and bigger and better and better. And one of the highlights of our conference is always our keynote presentation. I met Daemon at PAX East this year at one of the IGN parties, and we just started chatting, and then I just sent him an email. I was like, hey, would you want to come and be a part of this? And he graciously, generously offered his weekend to come. So I personally am super excited to have Daemon here. He's going to give a presentation, and then we're just going to go into a sort of back and forth and a QA with the audience. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're having an awesome GDEX.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Anyone that's ever listened to or seen one of my shows knows that it starts with, "What's up, everybody?" I'm Daemon Hatfield from IGN. I'm a host and producer there. I've been there for 10 years, and IGN just turned 20 years old this year, which is kind of a big deal just because websites don't turn 20 years old very often. So I'm going to talk a little bit about IGN's history, how it got to be where it is today, how I came to be involved, and some of the major changes that I've witnessed as I've covered the video game industry over the past 10 years. So, and then we'll absolutely leave some time for some Q&A at the end. If you guys have any questions, I can talk about IGN or getting into the industry or Disgaea or dubstep or whatever. So, without further ado, let me take you back to September 29th, 1996. It's the launch of the site N64.com, which would turn into what IGN is today. It seemed novel at the time, but someone thought, let's take a video game magazine and put it online, and we'll update it every day instead of once a month. Seems obvious to us now, but it was a very novel idea at the time. If it seems strange that a third party was able to start N64.com without Nintendo's involvement, I thought so too, but apparently it's not as unusual as you might think. Minecraft.com leads to a mining site, like a real mining company. And PlayStation4.com redirects to a media site, PSX Extreme, I think. So Sony was fine with them having that. Eventually, Nintendo did come knocking and wanted their N64.com domain name back. But it launched as N64, September 29th, 1996. And shortly after that, they launched dedicated sites for Sega Saturn and PlayStation. And around that time, I started reading N64.com because I was in college, and I'd just gotten a Nintendo 64 with a copy of the video game cartridge, Super Mario 64. And we were playing it in my dorm. If you want to make friends in college, just be the only guy that has the hot new video game on your floor. And we needed some help finding all the stars, and that led me to N64.com. And I've read the site ever since, even after it turned into IGN and whatnot. So it was in March 1997 that Imagine Games Network became the brand that was the umbrella that all these sites belonged to. So N64.com, I think it was Saturn World, and then our PSX site as well, PSX Power. Today, IGN does not stand for anything. Imagine Games Network is no longer a company, so it's just a brand name that unfortunately it's too recognizable for us to just disregard. So we still have the IGN name, even though it doesn't mean anything. A lot of people seem to think it stands for Internet Gaming News, and they get really upset when we post anything besides video games. But it's not true. I don't know where that nasty rumor got started. Doesn't stand for anything today, unfortunately. And then it was in the following year, in 1998, that all the sites were just wrapped up into the name IGN.com, and they were just made channels on the site. So instead of being separate websites, there was just a Nintendo 64 channel, a PlayStation channel, Sega Saturn channel, and whatnot. So this is what IGN looked like in 1999. We could just barely serve you up one tiny image at the top of the page. We were covering the launch of the Dreamcast, and we were looking for a Dreamcast editor. I don't know if you can read that. It says, "You read it right. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get a career in gaming journalism." And it was a post just like that that would eventually lead to me getting hired at IGN as well. And then a couple years later, we continue to progress. This is IGN in 2001. Unfortunately, at this point in IGN's life, the .com advertising market had crashed. We're an ad-supported site. So we started the Insider subscription service, which was an ad-free premium model. Was anyone here ever an Insider subscriber? We got a couple of, for that, we thank you. That means you guys have been reading for a long time. That's awesome. And then at this time, in 2001, we'd grown to 10 million monthly visitors. Then here we are in 2004. This is a very significant year for IGN. First of all, broadband internet was becoming more and more common, so we could serve you a lot more images. The site gets a lot more crowded. But this is also the year that we were bought by Fox. If you remember, Fox Interactive Media bought two big websites at the same time. They bought IGN and they bought MySpace. And they paid more for IGN than MySpace. And everyone thought that was crazy because MySpace was like the hottest site at the time. And where is MySpace now? For a while, we worked in the same office as MySpace, but I don't know what. It's crazy to think there's probably still people that driving to work every day to work at MySpace on something. Who knows? 2006 was also a significant year for IGN because that's the year that I joined the company and started this show. So to catch you up on what I've been doing all this time, I graduated college in 2001 with 2 degrees in music and theater. And then a bunch of friends and I moved, I went to the University of Kansas. A bunch of friends and I moved up to Chicago, and we started a sketch comedy group, and I started a band. And I did that for 5 years, and it was awesome. But as you can imagine, sketch comedy and a Laptronica band doesn't pay a whole lot of bills. And my friends were starting to move away, starting to get more serious careers, and I was like at this place, I felt like my time in Chicago was coming to an end. I was starting to think, what's next? What's next for young Damie? And I've been reading, I've been an avid video game fan, avid IGN reader all these years. Some of the best gaming memories I have from that time are Resident Evil 4, Mario Sunshine, Vice City, Metroid Prime, Beyond Good and Evil, and the first Disgaea actually came out while I was living in Chicago. So I continued being an IGN reader and a video game fan all these years. And then one day, IGN posted a job listing as an article, like the one we looked at earlier, where they were looking for a news writer. They were looking for a news and features editor. And I felt pretty confident that I could do that. Back then, you really only needed 2 things for an entry-level position in IGN editorial. You needed to know a lot about video games, and you needed to be a good writer. And I felt confident in both areas. Been a huge gamer all my life. In my social circles and my family, I was the guy that everyone came to with questions about video games. I'm sure many of you are like that for your social circles. And I've always been a strong writer. My dad's a writer. He's a newspaper man. He's a published author. It was always important to him that his kids be strong writers as well. And he used to assign me reviews after we'd watch movies and stuff, and I had to turn them into him. So I felt confident that even though I had no experience in the area, I had no contacts in the industry, I came to get my job at IGN through very traditional means. I wrote up a cover letter and I applied. And I was fortunate enough that the editor-in-chief of the site at the time, Tal Blevins, and the current news writer, David Adams, found my cover letter and they liked it. And they thought I was worth interviewing, and they ended up hiring me and moving me from Chicago to San Francisco. And at 28, I found myself in San Francisco, not knowing anyone, but starting my career at IGN, starting my career in games media. And I'd always read a couple other sites besides IGN. I read 1UP, I read GameSpot, and one thing I thought that they had that IGN did not was a weekly podcast. So after I came to IGN, one of the first things I did was to start this show, GameScoop. I was a news writer. I was writing news stories about what was going on in video games, so a news show seemed to make sense. A weekly news show that recapped everything that happened in the world of video games, hosted by me with a recurring cast of IGN personalities. And that is what GameScoop remains today. I published the 412th episode this week, so I've been hosting this show for 10 years now, which is crazy to me. But it turned out to be a big hit. It's IGN's longest running show. This is the site in 2008. The success of GameScoop inspired us to, I know it gets really crazy, inspired us to start our other podcasts, our platforms specific podcasts, Podcast Beyond for PlayStation. Our Xbox podcast was called Three Red Lights at the time, and then we have a Nintendo podcast called Nintendo Voice Chat. That's me and the little thumbnail of an early Daily Fix episode there too. But yeah, this is the site in 2008. I think you agree it gets a little crowded. This is also the year that we added article comments, which might have been a mistake. We also launched 2 satellite offices. The main IGN office is in San Francisco. Our entertainment office is in LA. They cover our movies, TVs, comic books. And then we started offices in the UK and Australia because up until that time, there were 12 hours of the day where we weren't posting anything to the site. So we opened these offices in different time zones with the idea that now we can actually be a real 24-hour news service to our readers. In 2008, we also launched our YouTube channel, which may not seem like a big deal, but it was to us at the time. There was a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback. A lot of people were scared about giving up our content and sending people away from IGN to watch our content somewhere else. But obviously, it was, I think it was the right move in hindsight because YouTube dominates video on the internet. If people are watching videos on the internet, they want to be watching them on YouTube. So it was just, it's also indicative of how IGN has had to change over the years. We'll see coming up in a little bit that we've really had to spread out beyond our own IGN.com domain. We would just want to be wherever people are consuming, wherever people want to consume our content, we want to make sure that they are able to. And then this is what IGN looks like today. We redesigned the site in 2014, and it looks just like this. So hopefully it looks simpler than our 2008 design. Today, video is our most important product. Our video team is much larger than our editorial team. The channels have been de-emphasized. We find people less and less would go to the actual PlayStation channel or the Nintendo channel. Now everyone's just going to the website. And now we're spread out among mini hubs. You know, this is like, we used to think this is the most important destination, IGN.com, but actually today, that #1 is our Snapchat Discover app, and that's our largest daily audience is actually going to our Snapchat app. That'd be followed by our mobile app and our mobile site, and then #3 is our desktop. IGN.com is our 3rd largest destination audience today. And this is how many people we're reaching today. Our audience is now 150 million people. We publish in 112 countries in 22 languages. Our social networks fold up to 20 million people, and we have 8 million subscribers on YouTube. So that's what we did in 20 years. And this is an example of all the different languages that we publish in and what it takes to coordinate a worldwide exclusive. If you remember at Gamescom last year, we had the exclusive news, the reveal of Metal Gear Survive, which again, I don't know about, but you know, it's nice to be able to have that exclusive. But in order to time it so it all goes up around the world, at the same time, this is what we have to do. This is how all the different assets that we have to make. It has to be translated into all these languages. So all of our affiliates around the world can publish the news at the same time. That's like most of like IGN's 20-year history, but in terms of my history, what I've been doing in the past 10 years at IGN, I was hired as a news and features editor. We had, back in the day, we had channel teams that were dedicated to Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and we had a separate news and features team that would write news about everything, and we'd write like top 10 lists, features like that. But then they decided they wanted those dedicated teams to write their own news. This guy's having a great time. And so they split up the news and features team. And I drew the Nintendo straw, and I got put on the Nintendo team for a while. But then after a while, we started to realize that downloadable games were starting to become a thing. Xbox Live was starting to blow up, and we thought maybe that was an area that we needed someone dedicated to. They asked me if I wanted to do that, and I said yeah. And that was actually some of the most fun years that I've had at IGN. I was the sole person covering downloadable games for IGN. So, you know, I got to sort of shape our coverage of the growing, burgeoning indie game space. Plus, I found that it's so much easier to get access to indie game developers than your EAs and your Activision. So that was a super fun time for me. Then, like after some staff changes and people leaving, I got moved up to senior editor, where I would sort of manage our editorial pool and assign previews and reviews. I missed being on camera. I missed being able to host videos and stuff. And that's really like I don't think managing other people's calendars is really the best use of my abilities. So I became a full-time host and producer, and that's what I am today. Basically, I host GameScoop, of course. I host our news video product. As I said, video is very important for us, so we want all of our news articles to be paired with a video. And then I also host our big live streams, our E3 coverage, our San Diego Comic-Con coverage, our big events like the PlayStation 4 reveal when we have a live show. I can host that. And then my day-to-day is mostly just about being available to step in and host wherever they need me. If they need someone to record VO for a video review, I can do that. Someone needs to play a game with them for a Let's Play, I can do that. Just sort of being available to host, wherever they need me. Let's take a drink of water. Where it's next? Oh yeah. So just to give you a little bit of idea of like who I am as a gamer and what is the games that have shaped me and led to where I am today. This is the first console that my family had. Yeah, I'm pretty old. I remember playing this game a lot with my dad. This is Combat. But the Atari 2600 was not the first experience I had with video games. My earliest recollection of playing video games was actually at a magical place that my grandpa used to take me to called Showbiz Pizza. I don't know if you guys had Showbiz Pizza out here, but it's just like Chuck E. Cheese, competitor to Chuck E. Cheese with animatronic animals. And my grandpa would take my sister and I there and give us a handful of quarters or tokens, and he'd read a book while we played video games. So all the early arcade games, Donkey Kong, Asteroids, Time Pilot, Galaga, Kangaroo, all that stuff. But then one day, we went to Showbiz Pizza, and there was a new game there. And it was a new arcade cabinet, and there's actually a line of people waiting to play this game. And that game was Super Mario Brothers. And I don't have to tell you why Super Mario Brothers was so significant, but needless to say, I was very impressed. Nothing had ever made me feel like I was really exploring new worlds like this game had. And then one day I was watching TV, and this commercial came on. If it'll play. No, that's mine. There we go. There we go. This commercial came on. This is a commercial for the original commercial for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And as you'll see here in a second, they'll show Super Mario Brothers. And when I realized you could play this exact arcade game at home, it blew my mind. I could not believe it. I know, this commercial is so good. Yeah, so and I realized this is like the first time an exact copy of an arcade game would be possible to play at home. I informed my parents that I could no longer live on planet Earth without a Nintendo Entertainment System. So they made sure it happened. This is Christmas morning, 1986, I believe. That's me and my sister unboxing our Nintendo Entertainment System. I think it's pretty cool that kid grew up to be able to play and talk about video games for a living. So looking at the past 10 years, I've been covering video games for IGN when I think about the biggest changes that I've observed in the industry. So in 2006 when I started, the Xbox 360 was out, but the PlayStation 3 and the Wii were still 6 months off. I started in the summer of 2006. I'd never downloaded a game. Esports were barely a thing. Minecraft didn't exist. I'd never done anything with YouTube. Twitch didn't exist. But when I think about the biggest changes that I've been able to cover, I think inarguably games going online is the biggest, most significant change to video games. Everything is downloadable now. All our games are downloadable. All the add-on content is downloadable. Games are able to be modified and patched. Gaming is a connected experience now, obviously. When I turned on my PlayStation 2, it was a very solitary experience. It was just me and the game. Now, of course, you turn on a console and I can see what all my friends are doing, what the videos they're watching. Other games are being advertised to me. I can watch people's streams. It's a much more robust and connected experience. And of course, developers don't even have to finish their games now before they release them. Yeah, because now when you get your game home, you put it in your console, there's a nice day one patch waiting for you. So, the cynic in me thinks, I remember when developers actually finished their games before they shipped them. Indie games replaced the mid-tier market in the past 10 years for sure. I don't think there even was much of an indie game market. It used to be like a long sliding scale. You're like big AAA games and like your A games, and it was a long tail into like the shovelware licensed category. Now I feel like today there's just a few AAA games being released, and then a million indie games, and like that's all that the industry is. Many fewer big releases, I think. Over the summer, I played Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, and I liked it, although I felt a little unfinished when I completed it. But then I was like, okay, what's next? In terms of a big AAA single-player experience, like there just wasn't anything else. And in September, on the NPD charts, there wasn't a single new non-sports game in the top 10 game sales in September of the summer. It was all like GTA 5 and Minecraft and Overwatch, all these older games. So the number of AAA games coming out is much smaller today than it used to be. And those indie games, man, there's just a million indie games coming out every week. Well, first of all, there wasn't a casual market 10 years ago when I started. I think the Wii pretty much created the casual game market. Then they lost it to the mobile game market, which also didn't really exist 10 years ago. When I started IGN, I had a flip phone. I never used it for playing video games. So yeah, we've seen the rise of the casual market. We saw the rise of the mobile market, and then that casual market completely moved over to mobile. And of course, game spectating, YouTube, Twitch. It turns out people like to watch other people play video games too. So that wasn't even something this created a totally different type of content. You know, when I started IGN, we would put up gameplay videos, but it was just like a raw gameplay video of some upcoming game. The thought of us like sitting down and playing a game and talking about it just never occurred to us. It took people on YouTube to come up with that really smart idea. That's about all that I have for you today. I know I'm going to talk with Chris for a little bit, but I want to really thank you guys for coming out. If you are a fan of GameScoop and IGN, I want to thank you for reading the site, listening to the show for all these years. I really appreciate it. GameScoop, you know, over my 10 years at IGN, this is like what I'm most proud of. It's what's been the most satisfying to me. I'm very proud of it, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us all these years. So with that, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Damon. So I just have two questions.
Two questions, okay.
Two questions. And they're sort of been touched upon already. But so the first one is, and we talked about this a little bit last night, but the importance of videos in the review process now. We talked about how you just don't write reviews anymore.
Well, we do write reviews.
But also now a big component of the large releases is the video, I think.
Yeah.
And so how has that changed since you've started, and what do you think the sort of relevance and importance is to that?
Well, it's been like a learning and a growing experience for us. When I was hired as a writer, and a lot of us were hired as writers and have sort of had to learn new skills, new video-related skills on being on camera. I at least had the added bonus of coming from a theater background and like some sort of performance background. I was used to performing on stage in my bands. So I was always very comfortable being on camera, but a lot of people were just like writers that have had to learn the, you know, because you're not just born with the ability to be on camera. It doesn't come naturally to you. It's actually a skill that you've had to learn. So, and especially that goes the same for voiceover work too. Our video reviews often just have voiceover instead of someone appearing on camera. But you know, so like that's over the years. This is something that IGN as a whole has sort of had to learn how to do together. I think, you know, in terms of what do I think the importance is. Everybody wants to consume video right now. So we just want to make sure that as much as possible, all of our written content is also being paired with video content. So we don't want to lose out.
Out of curiosity, do you have the stats of like on a review, for example, like how many watched the video as opposed to read the article or anything?
Oh, I mean, you'll find that the article views will be higher than video views just because it's easier. Most people, I mean, people do want to just look at the score. That's what they do. Let's not kid ourselves. But you know, like over time, videos will have a long tail on YouTube. Like and they'll watch our Witcher 3 review today. You know, when they're thinking about buying it. So you're talking about, you know, a lot of views on the article on IGN, and then a lot of views on the video on YouTube. Okay. Our video views on YouTube are higher than they are on IGN.com, just because everyone wants to watch videos on YouTube.
And you mentioned scores. IGN's revamped their scoring process just recently, and then it's over the years has
well,
changed.
Yeah.
So where do you think sort of review scores, just the number, stand today, and could it use a little changing or polishing, just in your opinion?
Well, those changes over the years, you know, we started with a 100-point system, meaning like it could be a 7.1 or 7.2. I was a big fan when we changed the 20-point system, when you get rid of those small degradations, so it's just like it could be a 7 or a 7.5 or an 8. Because me, I don't really know. I couldn't really tell you the difference between a 7.1 and a 7.2. And back when I was reviewing games, I can tell you that sometimes when you're like coming up with a score for a game, I would look, so if I were scoring a PSP game, I would look at its catalog and it's like, I feel like this game is a low 7. I would say, we haven't given a 7.2 yet. 7.2, that's what this one is. So it's like, it's just, I don't see a significant difference in those numbers there. But it is back to a 100-point system today. What was the rest of your question?
I think that's good.
Okay.
And then my last question is, so you mentioned indie games, obviously, you know, we're either indie game developers here, indie game lovers. How does an indie developer or a small studio like attract the attention of someone like you or IGN to help promote what they're working on?
Yeah. You know, I'm not going to say it's easy because, you know, we want to cover the big games that there's a lot of interest in, you know, and we only have so many resources, so many hours in the day, we can't cover everything. So we have to make choices about what to cover, and we usually choose to cover the biggest games, most popular games. Pokemon Go was huge this year. But in terms of like, you know, getting our attention, you know, what things you can do, I mean, it may seem obvious, this might not seem very helpful, but like making an awesome game is like the first thing you should do, you know. I feel like it's just like on the music side of things, you know, when you try to get the attention of music blogs or music writers, it's like, yeah, you have to have awesome music, but that's like the given. Like that's like the bare minimum that you have that you have to have in order to get people to notice you. But I would say, you know, I've come to know a lot of our IGN fans and GameScoop fans over the years from interacting with them on social media, and I've come to know some developers that way too. I'm very active on social media. A lot of people in games media are. So I say that's actually a really good way to just sort of like get to know people online. And then if you already have that connection established, well, then it's a lot easier to hit me up and say, you know, we've been working on this game. I would love for you to check it out. Then it's not just some random person saying, "Hey, I made this new mobile game. Can you guys check it out?" I get so many just random people. I don't know them. I've never heard of them, and they're just like hitting me up, and they want me to promote their game on the show or anything. But it's just like, dude, like that's kind of, it's almost like aggravating. Like you're not doing yourself any help there by just like spamming us randomly, you know. So I'd say you actually should take some time to develop relationships with people in the industry that you want.
Sweet. Well, that's all I have. So, want to do some questions from the audience?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, right here. He's asking about how Bethesda last week made an announcement that they're not going to be sending out games early, review copies of games to media outlets early anymore. So first of all, I thought it was really weird for them to make that announcement publicly. I didn't really see like why that was necessary. Like they could have that could be their policy, sure. It's their game. They don't owe anyone anything. They don't owe media to get it early. But I don't know why they had to make that announcement publicly. I thought that was a little strange. In terms of like, you know, no one who's doing their job responsibly is going to rush their review just because they didn't get it early. They should still take the time to play the game thoroughly and write a thorough review of the product. So, you know, that we're obviously not going to, at IGN, we're not going to rush our review out the door. It'll just be, you know, for a big game like Skyrim. Thankfully, Skyrim's a remaster of an older game. But if this were like Elder Scrolls 6 that were coming out, yeah, our review would probably just go up a week later, and that's just sort of the reality that we have to deal with. But you know, we always urge people to inform themselves, make informed decisions. I suggest people don't just blindly pre-order games when they see a cool trailer at E3. You know, I think it's just better. It's better just to wait and see how the product actually turns out. You know, our whole job is just to help people make more informed decisions. Games are expensive. You know, people want to make smart decisions with their money. That's what our job is just to help people make informed decisions. So even if we don't get the game early, we're still going to take the time to make sure we do that. What's up? Well, I hope it does well. As you saw earlier, I'm a lifelong Nintendo fan. I like the idea of the Switch console. I think there are a lot of questions about it, like how long is the battery life? You know, what's the game's lineup going to be? Is there going to be third-party support? It's a lot of questions. But just like the basic facts, it's a HD console that I can take with me on the go. Like I like the idea of that. Not really sure about the Joy-Con controllers, but we'll see. But you know, it's been so long since Nintendo has been like on top of the game. The Wii was kind of like, you know, a strike of lightning that they can't repeat. So I would just love to see Nintendo just like work their way back into the mix of things, because it's, you know, even though they announced the Switch, there's been some media analysis that like the Battlefield 1 trailer got many more views in its first week than the Switch reveal trailer did. So it's like, people wrote more articles about PlayStation 4 Pro than they wrote about Nintendo Switch. It's just, they seem to have lost so much of their foothold in the industry, and a lot of people just moved on. So I would love to see Nintendo come back and be a force to be reckoned with in the industry. I don't really see it affecting Sony and Microsoft. I don't think they're gonna all of a sudden come up with a console that's already a portable, unless it is another Wii situation, because obviously they copied the Wii's motion controls with both Kinect and with PlayStation Move, so they couldn't ignore that. But like I was saying, I just want to see Nintendo just back at the table, because they've been sitting at the kids' table by themselves for so long now. Right here. Objective and tone. So first of all, I should say I'm actually not I'm not crazy about the term games journalism. Like, as I explained, I never went to journalism school. I'm not formally trained in that. I never aspired to be a journalist. It's never been in my job title or resume. So I've been a host and a personality and a critic and maybe a reporter, but I don't think of what I do as journalism. But in terms of what I think the tone, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what you're referring to, other than I think that it's probably improved, because it used to be very much for better or worse, it was like a boys' club, and it was it was a little bit the writing and the tone, even though it was very enthusiastic and knowledgeable, it could also be a little juvenile at times. And I think it's only you're just getting a more diverse group of people whose voices are being heard writing about games. Everyone loves games, men and women, people of all races and beliefs, and we're getting more of those voices heard, more of those voices talking about video games are being shared, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not sure if that's really what you're referring to, but that's definitely something that I've seen. There's definitely a lot more women working at IGN today than when I started, and I think that's a good thing. Over here. Well, I mean, I think I said earlier, I think it was more impressive when a developer had to be completely sure their game was done before they shipped. I totally get it. If you can update your product, why not? I understand that there's a lot of money going into games. They have to set their release date and work out deals with retailers, so they actually have to start printing those discs before they can actually finish everything that they want to do, and they want to keep working. They want to just being all right, we shipped the game, we're done. If we can keep working on it and improving it even after it's released, I totally get that. I respect that. But I'm nostalgic for a time when I knew that what I was buying was done and probably bug-free. And if there was a bug, it would be in there forever and it'd be kind of charming. I don't know. Yeah. Over here. Yeah, so to answer your second question first, no, that person just took the games and ran. Yeah, they gave me their sob story about why they deserved to have the games, and then I never heard from them again. But anyway, they were just collecting dust in my house. Anyway, it's fine. I approach content creation at IGN. I'm not really thinking about I'm not one of the money guys at IGN. That's what my wife does. But I would just rather not have that toxic back and forth. I don't think it's worth it. We like having comments on the site, and comments, generate, activity and clicks on our site. But if it means everyone's just going to be in the article comments arguing about whose console is better, yeah, I'd just rather not have it. I mean, clicks to site is that's just what the number of clicks we get is just what we tell advertisers so that they will spend money with us. So I mean, I guess I can't speak to that too much, other than we want to get clicks, yeah, in a responsible manner, yeah. But I would rather not. It's not worth it to get clicks if you have to just sort of breed the fanboy arguments. What's up? Yeah, I haven't seen the video, but yeah, I would say that it's definitely different now. And the way I got into IGN, I don't think it's gonna happen again. We are definitely looking for people that have a lot of experience. I said there were two things you needed back in the day. You needed to know a lot about video games and be a good writer. Those two things are still true, but we also really want people that are good on camera, that are comfortable on camera, people that can communicate well on camera. If you can edit video, that's a big plus. We definitely want people with as much video experience as we can today. And I would say, yeah, more often than not, we're definitely hiring people that have experience writing for other sites, or even if you have like your own big YouTube channel, like that's a big plus too. Right here. Yeah, yeah. It's like we actually did a live show to coincide with that trailer, and after I saw the trailer, I was glad I wasn't really on it because I wouldn't really have anything to say. Because I'd be on live and I'd be live on camera and I'd have watched the trailer and I'd be like, well, all right, that definitely was a Western video game. But man, that's Rockstar. Like Rockstar, they're in a unique position. They can pretty much do whatever they want, and however many years after it's been released, Grand Theft Auto 5 is in the NPD top 10 every single month. Like that game just keeps selling and selling. So. Red Dead Redemption isn't quite as big as GTA, but they can definitely all they need to do is let people know Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming. It's a year out, and they'll use that whole year to sort of build hype. Over here, back in the back. No, yeah, you. I wish I could. So I don't know. It's like a chicken or the egg thing. It's like I was thinking about this the other day. When I was growing up reading video game magazines, I'd read Nintendo Power, EGM, GamePro, any magazine I could get my hands on. And never once, I would read the magazines from cover to cover and I would just absorb it all. And never once did I ever think, oh, this magazine was totally bought off by EA. Oh, or they gave this Sonic the Hedgehog game a bad score. I guess the check didn't clear from Sega. Like, I never ever thought that. But when you look in comments on any site, like that's all the comments are. So it's like, I don't know if at some point the gaming audience became that cynical, or if they just always were and they never had internet comments to like voice their opinions on. So I don't, it's definitely frustrating to me. I wish I could say that the gaming audience seemed to have matured, but I don't know. GameScoop fans are awesome. Oh yeah, I'll bet. Let's do these two. Yeah, the young lady right first. Well, there's nothing stopping you. That's the nice thing today, right? Like anybody can start a YouTube channel and start, playing video games, reviewing video games, creating whatever type of content you want to do. My advice, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to just run your own YouTube channel, or do you want to get hired at a media site? They're very different things. If you want to do your own YouTube channel, Twitch channel, just like go nuts, have fun, do whatever you want. I would say if you wanted to get the attention of a site like IGN, I would just say like try to present yourself really well, be as professional as possible. You don't need to be like all buttoned up and boring. We always think of our voice as like your knowledgeable friend who's talking to you about video games on the couch. So we have like a little relaxed vibe, but we try to present ourselves well and be professional about it. And I would say it's also like there's so many people on YouTube now. Try and find like what's your unique voice, what's your unique opinion, what's special about you, what's your angle. Do you have something new to say about video games? That's what I would be looking for. And next to you. But no, you don't. You don't have to buy it. No. Like, do you like Call of Duty? Do you want to play the new game? So I don't feel compelled. well, all right. Then I would say, like I think we say this a lot. Our good friend Colin Moriarty says this a lot. Like, vote with your wallet. Like, don't buy it. Like, that's the only thing that a business is going to listen to. You know. But yeah, if you do keep buying it every year, I mean, I don't think that they just half-ass their Call of Duty games. I think they actually spend a lot of time and effort and energy and creativity and money developing these games. I don't play them. I'm not really a fan. But like, if you don't ever stop buying them, they're never going to stop making them. Like, that's how it works. It's as simple as that. I don't know. Abusing the hype train. I don't know. I guess it is like it's unfortunate when a No Man's Sky situation happens. They want to sell video games, but like we're all part of that. I guess that's what I'd say is like don't like on the hype train. It's like just like if you want Call of Duty to change, you have to stop buying it. Like you can decide to get off the hype train at any moment. Like with No Man's Sky, I was like I kind of saw people getting carried away because I was like, this is a really small development team that's only made two little games, Joe Danger and Joe Danger 2. And now they're promising this huge infinite space explorer. And so like the whole time I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to wait and see what this game is like. But everyone else was just like, full steam ahead. I want this game. I know I want this game. I'm going to play it. I'm going to buy it day one. So like, these companies and marketers want to sell games. The marketing firm that they hire to market their game, like they're just doing their job. They're going to do whatever they think they need to get people interested in the game and try to sell as many copies as they can. But like, we as consumers and gamers, we need to just be smart and like don't believe the hype, like Public Enemy said. Like just like try there's many sites like IGN are like, we're totally on your side. We're there to like help you make informed decisions. Even if you don't want to read IGN, there's many other media outlets and YouTubers that you probably trust that are getting early access to games and following games over their development. So, I think the onus is on all of us not to let the hype train get out of control. Well, just of the games I reviewed, man, I don't know. I reviewed some Disgaea games, and again, I really love Disgaea. My favorite game of all time is probably Mario 64. I don't know, the games that I reviewed, I really love Pac-Man Championship Edition DX. It's one of the really good ones. Limbo is one of my all-time favorite games. Yeah, I really like that one. But I reviewed a lot of games I don't like at all either, too. So that happens. Reviewing games is not fun. That's one thing that people don't really seem to realize. When you are reviewing a game, you don't get to just play it for fun on your own time. You're like playing it on someone else's time, and even if you've stopped having fun with the game, you have to keep playing with it. It's much more fun to just play games on your own. Matt Jones. No, I think there's great music in video games for all levels, from AAA down to indie. It is a little bit different now. I'm a big retro game fan. I grew up playing 8 and 16-bit games, so I always love, if you listen to GameScoop, I have a infrequent 8-bit radio segment that we do sometimes where I just play 8-bit music, and I love that like every game on the NES sounds the same, like it were played by the same band, basically, just because every game uses the same sound chip. But today, as soon as they started using CDs for games, they could just program, like, music could be orchestral, it could be a hard rock, heavy metal soundtrack, it could be whatever you wanted it to be. They weren't just using the same sound chip to sound all the same. So I do kind of miss when a console's games all had the same sort of spectrum of sounds. But even today, I think there's great music. I guess the most recent one, I think Deus Ex: Mankind Divided has a really good soundtrack, and The Witcher 3 was great last year. Even Metal Gear Solid 5, especially the Mass Effect series, has some great music. Tomb Raider's really good. Assassin's Creed, but even like down to in the indie game space, Inside has like a very non-traditional, like an amazing sound design, like weird soundscape that plays along with that game. Playing Darkest Dungeon, I'm playing Darkest Dungeon like every day now because Darkest Dungeon is amazing. That game has a great soundtrack. So I feel like across the bar, the quality of video game music today is very high. Behind.
I think we have time for 3 more.
3 more. Worst changes in games. Well, like I was saying, it's sad. It's sad to see what's happened to Nintendo. I think the whole, I guess I go back and forth on whether or not the casual market is really good for video games. It's like great to bring more people into the fold, but like, man, the whole motion control thing was like, I think it's like a dark time. I think the Wii is a dark time for video games. I don't want to like play games like this. And I don't like the race to the bottom of the mobile gaming market. Everything has to be free. I think it's sad that like a lot of people just like expect games to be free now. They refuse to pay money for games. They don't really see that a lot of time and money and effort and creativity goes into creating games, and they just expect to be given their games for free. I think that's too bad. I get a little disheartened with the, like we were talking about earlier, the negativity in the community. There is I really don't think it's the majority. I just think it's like the people that are angry and ticked off, or they're going to be the more vocal ones. And it's like all the fans that I interact with and that I have such great interactions with, they're not the ones that are like getting nasty in the comments. But it can be disheartening when you like work on something and then you put it out there and then the comments are all negative. It's like, well, geez, like why did I even try? In general, though, I think like I don't have like a negative. I guess it's harder for me to answer that question than it is to answer the question like what are the biggest or coolest changes. Like I'm very positive on the whole video game industry. Second to last question, right in the middle, in the back. I guess, well, so I like SimCity. I played the older ones. I didn't play the most recent SimCity. I'm looking forward to playing Civilization 6, if that counts. I guess I like sim games. I don't play a lot of them. I went through a period playing a lot of, I guess, sim games on my phone when like what are the sim games where you're like a game developer? What are those games? Yeah, like those types of games too. But I guess I don't have. You probably have a lot more experience with sim games in general than I do. But I really liked SimCity on Super Nintendo. Put a lot of hours into that one. Last question. Red shirt in the way back. Oh man, my favorite episode. There's one missing episode. That's a lost episode. No, my favorite episode is probably from a Tokyo Game Show. I don't remember what year it was. Someone would need to remind me what year it was. But there was a year. There's young children in the audience, so I'm gonna tell the PG version of the story. But we're in Tokyo for TGS, and we're recording a podcast in our hotel room. And at the hotel room where we stayed, in your room you could watch 30 seconds of adult entertainment before the screen would scramble. And we called it the Dirty 30. So we decided to turn it on during the show. But then, so we only got and we were gonna describe what's happening to the audience. But we only got 30 seconds, so in our hotel rooms, we're all in a row down the hall, so we'd start in one room, and then we'd go to the next room and watch the next 30 seconds. And we were recorded the whole thing. And it was so dumb, it's so stupid, but that was really fun. I hear from a lot of fans that they like that episode a lot. It's really good. I guess that's all the time we have.
Yeah, awesome. So, Damon, thank you very much for visiting us in Ohio and taking time to answer questions and to just be a part of GDEX. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
For everyone else, I appreciate you all being here. So far, Saturday's done. It's been an awesome Saturday. Who here's coming to the dance party tonight? Yeah, all right.
I'm going.
I hope so. So for those of you going to the dance party, I'll see you all later. Everybody else, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. And if not, hopefully I'll see you next year.